me move over a little bit?
All good.
Hello, sir.
Hello again. So what's on the agenda tonight?
Is that a new sweater? That burgundy one?
No.
Oh, I've never
I
seen
have
it.
had this for 2 years along with its companion right here. They were gifts from my mother. They were both the wrong size and the wrong style for what I would wear. But some weird little voice inside me was like, it's rude to throw it out. So there they hang.
Or it can be like, do you have the receipt? So that I can go and like get one that's the right size and style.
Pretty sure that that's fast.
Well, 2 years, I can see those virtual reality glasses. Waster of money. We've already had this. This is like
Those are
deja
like
vu.
$35.
Doesn't matter. I'm just saying. Just say, hey, can I have the receipt? Thank you. Love it.
Awesome.
Wrong size.
So you downsize your closet down to the 6 outfits you actually wear and get rid of the ones that you carry with you year over year and don't actually use. I'm staring at them.
Clothes that
Staring at them.
Because now I'm like, oh.
You wear that shirt, you wear that shirt, and you wear that shirt. And you wear that hoodie that you got on right now with the blueberry stain on your shoulder. Way too much. I can do this all day long.
I have no idea how I got the blueberry shade on my shoulder, but it was just this morning.
So it raises questions because A, you got a blueberry stain on there, and B, you know it's there, and you're like, well, I'm still rocking this sweater.
Well, I remember when it happened being like, but how did it get there? I can't remember how the blueberry stain
I should wear it and show it off
there.
to the world until we solve this mystery. Like we're the Mystery Inc. gang.
I was there when it happened.
You still don't know. That's a true mystery. One you witness and still don't know how it happened.
Well, I knew at the time. I just can't remember. See, my Alzheimer's is setting in.
I don't think it's Alzheimer's. I don't know what to label it, but it ain't Alzheimer's.
Dementia. Your brain starts shutting.
Why do you gotta be so into labels, man?
Okay. My memory is starting to shut down.
That sounds more horrifying. Thank you for coming. Based on what you just said about your memory, I am happy you were able to find your way here and didn't end up in the spare room talking to that closet.
Who knows? I'm not going to see you for 2 weeks. And so who knows? I might not remember you in 2 weeks.
Our bond is so strong and your love for me is so strong that it supersedes working, functioning memory. Like that lady I told you about. Remember the one that was someone posted online about their parents? Her mom was in late stage dementia.
Yeah.
And she didn't recognize her father anymore, like her husband, so the poster's father. But it was a picture of her mother curled up in her father's lap. And when they asked, do you know this man? She said, no, but I just know I'm safe with him. And that was it.
It makes me so sad.
I know. I mean, you don't know who I am. You're welcome to cuddle. No problems.
I was running to you, cuddling with you before we were even dating.
I know. We don't need to rehash that because it always ends with you calling me a jerk.
I know. It's always been my
26 years later.
Always been my knight in shining armor.
That's right. Ready to smite down anybody. This has been good.
Yeah.
All right.
Get
you
down
ready?
to business. Yes. Always.
Strap in. No, this is a slight modification from something we talked about in a previous episode.
But seriously, how does one get blueberry on their shoulder?
We're right back to it. All right, let's ask the tough questions, ladies and gentlemen. Blueberries on the shoulder, dementia or not? Like that's what people want to know.
Frozen blueberries out of the freezer. I put it into the microwave. I can't remember.
You dropped a piece of celery on the floor, or you almost dropped a piece of celery on the floor today. And it was loaded with garbage.
Peanut butter and jam.
Do you realize that our island is a minefield of peanut butter drippings?
I wiped that up.
You didn't, because I put my arm in it twice this week.
I haven't been the only one actually eating peanut butter. I do. I wipe up. There's been other people with Crispix.
Wipe up your lives. So you've taught the children to steal the Crispix and dip them into peanut butter.
It's so good. Okay, anyway, what was your question?
So we were joking around on a previous episode about, I was teasing you about calling me out when you didn't agree with something that I would say. And instead of being like, oh, well, just backing me and then we talk about it offline to get aligned with it. The joke was you sold me out and I had 3 children to debate. But the question that prompted in me, and it ties into another feeling as well, is at times as parents, we get caught feeling like the bad guy. Like we have to
always feel like
I know you always feel that. Yes. You always say that. It's a two-way street because I get caught in the same position as well, right? And this isn't a you and me pointing thing. This is setting up the question. So as parents, we get caught in this position where we have to say no, right? Because whatever is being proposed doesn't make sense or whatever. So there's 2 things, 2 parts to this. How, as parents, can we do a better job of supporting each other in those? There's a bunny outside. Yes. How can we support each other better in the moment when we see our partner making a judgment call or making an opinion or putting their foot down or whatever that we may or may not agree with in the moment, but we kind of get where they're going and what they're doing.
Hello, dog. Welcome to our podcast. Get out. Dog.
So,
sorry,
one dog realizes the other dog is misbehaving, so she's trying to hide. So we know she's not in trouble. So that's the first question. The first question is essentially, as partners.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
There was something where you were saying, I'm the rubber, you're the glue. That was the thing earlier today that I had said.
Well, when we're walking, you called me dense, and I mumbled, you're rubber and I'm glue.
No, that was later, because dense was early in the walk.
Well, the real saying is, I'm rubber, you are glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
Yeah.
And what I said was, you're rubber, I'm glue. F you, I don't like your joke.
You said it.
And I can't, because I couldn't. But
anyway, I can't remember what my joke was. It wasn't the dense one. Anyhow, can I just say one thing before I go into it?
Sure.
So, and I am going to throw a little bit.
Whatever.
But it's not effective. I'm not modeling effective communication right now. I definitely recognize that. But the things that I call you out on for being a fun destroyer is like probably ridiculous things.
Like what?
Like drilling a hole in the middle of our.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm not talking about those things. I'm not.
But I'm the bad guy with the big things that are really disappointing.
Sure. Okay. So we can dive into that.
Yeah. But you're right.
Because that's a two-way street. And let's dive into this. Because here's, from the other perspective, here's the problem with that logic. If I were to say, yeah, sure, sleepover is cool, right? This is the most recent incident of this happening. Before, the problem was we would be put on the spot in front of the kid and have to make that call. Mm-hmm. We've since tried to modify it so those situations are brought to us separately so we can say yes or no.
This was the first time it's ever been separate. Truly, it's usually always the kid asking and being in the middle of the kid. So it's a step forward for sure.
Sure.
So then you're right. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in that instance, the question was still being asked to us to try and come up with it with no discernment on who was going to deliver the news should it come forward. Just how do we want to handle this? Your reaction was, I'm the bad guy again. I'm looking at it from the perspective of, no, I'm trying to make the call with you. Mm. I'll go deliver the news, but I don't want to be put in the position where I just go, yeah, sure, I don't care. And the converse side of that is you going, no, that's stupid, and calling me out for having the answer you don't agree with in front of the kid.
Right.
Right? Because there are instances where it's instant, it happens, and we're like, I don't know, right? And to be honest, parents are going to be in that position no matter what. It's going to happen. Yeah. Where possible, when we try and coordinate some of these conversations, the reaction is still, I'm a bad guy because I'm about to say no. But how else do you handle it then? Mm-hmm. Right? Because as a parent, as your partner, I'm in a position where I make the call in the moment and I get it wrong. You're pissed because I got it wrong. I come to you and try and corroborate, and you feel like the bad guy because I've put you in the position of saying no to me. Mm-hmm. So it's a lose-lose for me, right? and I'm not trying to make it you and me. I'm using the most recent example just as kind
Yeah.
of framework, right?
No, yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So as partners, how do we avoid that? Because my intent is never to put you in that spot. I'll deliver the bad news. And I never frame it as, well, let me talk to mommy because who knows? Because I know that's what puts you in a bad spot. I'll say, we'll have to talk about it, or we'll have to see what we have going on. I don't know. Let me figure it out. Right. And it opens it up to have the conversation in any way, shape, or form. But as partners, the goal should always be to have that communication and be on the same page. So what is a good method to try and do it both on the fly and when we have some time to kind of discuss it and show a unified front? And out of that, the other one is kind of the offshoot question of that is when there is a moment where I say something, let's say I say something in the heat of the moment that I'm just like, no, I don't, blah, 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 and you don't agree with it. What is a good way for parents to be able to kind of address it and still not put that other person kind of on the spot and potentially take a contrary view in front of the kids?
Yeah.
Right. Because as we all know, it's you and me against them. And the reason why you don't have more kids than parents is because that shifts the numbers in their favor.
Well, and I think this is a good one because I see it all the time from, even when there's strong relationships, strong co-parenting, all the way to high conflict divorce, right? And so there's a huge wide range there. And so, and I think, again, it comes down to context. So in a family like ours, and I think we were always good, about saying whichever parent is engaging in the moment, like let's say there's big behaviors and kids are having a big emotional meltdown and one parent has already stepped in to manage the situation. We've always kind of talked about that parent, good or bad, right or wrong, helpful, unhelpful, they're
they say goes
in it. So they will finish that through unless it's I'm taking a break. I'm going to call for help, and we've done that and seen when me too, like if my stress level is going up too high and you're able to step in. So good tag teaming. That's the ideal thing. Right. And then you and I talk about it later.
Always. Yeah.
But I know that there's some families where one parent is engaging with a child really not how the other parent likes because they think, the other parent is belittling or too punishing, too harsh, name calling, and that happens. And then they step in. So there's a fine line, right? And I get a lot of pushback on that. Well, I'm not going to let my partner belittle this child on bordering verbal abuse, right? And stepping in. So then there's a lot of co-parenting work to be done around that. But we do want to have that united front, right? That we, like, I hate when kids ask you, you say no, and then they come ask me, right? And so then it's like, well, what did daddy say? Well, he said no. And I'm like, well, why are you asking me? That's the answer, right? They can get a little sneaky like that. But again, like, I think last week we were talking about being proactive, and that's part of this too, right? Is sitting down. And if you're noticing a theme where one parent is jumping on top of the other, or like this would happen all the time where, one parent would ground a child, but the other parent's like, no, that's too harsh. You're ungrounded, or here, have your phone back, or like just undo the punishment. Well, that's a problem too, because then they learn one is the bad cop and one is the pushover. And oftentimes I do see kids not trusting the one parent's authority when it's always being sort of, overthrown. So I do think as long as you know what those red lines are, like what lines are being crossed, we've never crossed, like you've never crossed a line where I'm like, whoa, 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 maybe more angry or frustrated.
But that's usually the signal point where I step out.
Exactly.
Because it's pretty quick. Like I know I can read a room when I'm about to not be able to manage it properly, and I'll just leave.
Yeah.
Right. And whether it's upstairs or just to the garage or just give myself, the old buy a drink and a bottle of water in the hallway. Essentially the same thing, right? Like I can't deal with this. I know I'm not dealing with it well. I'm just going to exit. Yeah. Right.
And I wouldn't jump in and call you out like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
No.
I try to do some sort of distraction cue just to say, hey, okay, like but it hardly ever happens. I think like once a decade, really.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying this isn't a laundry list of things you and I are doing to each other. It's just joking around about in the last episode. It really did raise a question because there are those moments where, like, I always approach it that I never want to put you in a bad position. And you do the same. I mean, yeah, you'll joke around and call me the fun killer and stuff, but I know you're joking. Like, for the most part, I know you're joking. And on the ones where you're actually planting your foot and going, no, this is actually what I want, we'll always talk it through in some fashion, right? It's just in the moment when we're unprepared for the topic and it comes out of left field. What's the best way?
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of because it's two things. I want the kids to see that we can have those conversations on the fly and we're not making one parent, the authority figure on everything and the bad guy in everything. But at the same time, short of having like baseball style signals of what we actually want the answer to be, we can sometimes get it wrong. Right. And make the answer that we think the other one would agree with, and the other one's like, you're an idiot. We got like dentist tomorrow morning. We can't do this. And you're like, oh,
Well, and then that stuff is okay. Like, hey, was talking about it and I forgot about this context.
Totally.
So I'm going to change my answer, right? Like, I think that those things are okay. Yeah, having the separate conversation, like, unless it's an obvious thing, like, no, it's till 10 o'clock at night on a school night for 12-year-olds, I'm going to say no, right? So there's some common sense things that I think are totally, legit that we can make those decisions. And I know every family is going to be different, but I do think, you have to work out a system with your partner, whatever that's going to look like, so maybe it's, hey, great question. I love that idea. Let's write it down and put it in our idea box. And we'll have, over dinner, or we'll have a little meeting after school and we'll talk about it. We'll look at the calendar, right? And we'll kind of make a collaborative decision. Right. So that could be an idea, right? Always putting it on the other parent. Well, I have to ask mom. That's implying I'm okay with it, but we got to see, right? With the final decision maker. I don't know. Like, I think that could be problematic because then it is always falling down on one. So it's more about, I can't answer that right now. I need to look at the full context. If I can't answer right now, I mean, we want to be able to answer some things right now.
Totally. And some things are you just take a 50-50 shot that you'll make the right call. And it's kind of not a big deal, right? Like, there are some things that, whatever, like, go to your friend's place, but you gotta be home in a couple hours or whatever.
Totally. Yeah. Half the time I don't even know. Like, I'll come home from work or it's 6 o'clock and there's no children. I'm like, where are they? Right. Yeah. Or same thing. You're like, where's Willow? I'm like, she's at the mall. So, but I think finding that if you're seeing common themes, right? I think making sort of that contextual, the big thing is coming back to it, because a lot of parents will just say, maybe later, let me think about it. And then kids are just like never going to trust you because they just know that that's a no, right? And then or they assume it will be, and then they put up attitude and stuff. So you always want to make sure you are honoring that. Like, hey, at 5 o'clock, I think that could help, because if you just say later, but at 5 o'clock. But I think, for me, it's how we word it when the kids bring it up, is just being careful not to say, let me talk to mom. And I'm going to pull out a big elephant in our situation. It's probably in the room here, because that last situation, Willow wasn't there, but there was an in-law there. And a lot of it comes around that, like the in-law, right? Or one of our in-laws, one of the grandparents. And that's where I always feel like I'm like bad guy, because it's always, don't tell mommy, she's going to get mad, from when they were very little. And so for me, that's a sore spot, right? And I think that's why I had the reaction that I did, because my children have been told, don't tell mommy, we'll keep it between us. Keep secrets from mommy. In the past. But I still hold on to that.
Yeah, totally.
And so, like, that's a whole other issue, I think, as well, right? So
and I agree. And I think, and I'm not, you're absolutely correct that those things happen and it's valid and all of that. So
it's not even just with children. I think just looking at all the variables, I guess.
yeah. So that's an extension of the same question then, is how, because the process as I see it when it happens is it's typically the child's idea. They go and ask grandma, and grandma says, well, I got to talk to mommy and daddy and see what they say. How else could that be handled so it isn't putting you in that position where you feel like you're being the bad guy? Because that's essentially what we've asked is don't say yes, but don't make us the bad guy, right? Or don't, that same thing, but it still comes around feeling that way. So for partners, it's these debriefs, right? Like these quick check-ins and what do you want to do? How do you handle it when there is those extra parties, right? And that the kids are close to and spend time with, and we do end up feeling like we're the bad, but like how do you manage that healthily as well, right? In a proper way.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because we've tried lots of different things. And it's hard because you don't have control. Like, in partners, we can sort of collaborate and things like that. I mean, I think maybe just making guidelines, like if it is a school night, you know what? Sleepovers aren't a thing and I think like that was what it was. I don't care, but it's a sleepover on a school night. That's not the best idea, especially when kiddo hasn't had a lot of great, like it's been a few late nights and just busy and just needs that rest and settlement. So maybe it's the same thing, like great idea, like got to sit down, look at the calendar. We'll see what works for the schedule because I don't have a calendar on me right now or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's sort of that same approach, but it's just sitting down and if it is a common theme, being able to say, hey, okay. And that's part of what the family meetings are. It's like, I've noticed this theme, right? This trend of what's happening. Let's sit down and problem solve and talk about it. I think that's the most, effective approach. But I don't know. What are your ideas?
I don't know. That's why I wanted to ask. Like, I think for me, the question is more just, I mean, I think you and I have it fairly okay. Like there's always missteps here and there, but never anything major, right? Like never anything that's catastrophic. But it is about, the fact that we figured out pretty early on, when it was important for one of us to speak up, when it was important for us to not, when, the language to use to try and make sure that it's not one against the other. And yeah, just generally trying to support each other when it comes to those conversations. The tricky bit is you can never foresee every situation. And, and especially when it gets outside of the two of us is where it's harder to control for sure. But it is around, how do you handle it in the moment is my big thing. And again, I don't know that I think the point of this conversation was for people that are just having kids or are young, it's really important to figure it out early in the relationship.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we've had years of practice at this that we kind of know the ins and outs. And the kids have a routine too. They know what they're going to ask and what they're not going to ask and what might get a yes and what won't get a yes. And in some cases, we'll manipulate the situation because, oh, you're just going to say no anyways. And then it makes us leap to, come on, tell us anyway. You might, so we have all those different interactions, but it's important that as the situations themselves become more intricate with you and I, like we're getting posed with more things. It would be far harder if we hadn't established kind of what you've already recapped. And that's what I wanted to do is just, recap how we did it, highlight everything that we could be doing differently. But it really just, for me, comes down to, on the major issues, on the major disagreements, it's important not to create some sort of divisiveness in the moment, but it's absolutely important to, because the parent that put their foot down in the moment can't always go back and go, hey, you know what? I was thinking about what I said earlier, and I think I'm going to change my mind. Kind of like what you said earlier. I don't think that's the right decision. I think this is okay or whatever. But I think if they're called out in the moment, people 9 times out of 10 will double down.
Yeah.
They'll dig in, right? They'll get defensive. They won't want to change their mind or whatever. And it puts both parties in a bad spot then because one doesn't want to back down and one is wondering why they won't back down and it doesn't solve the problem, right? So again,
It's just a communication trap that you fall into.
Totally. So I think it does become like for the routine stuff, yeah, getting into that cadence of understanding it, and then the bigger stuff, just talking it through and making sure that if there's cleanup that needs to happen, go clean it up. Otherwise, take it forward and learn how to do it better the next time.
I think, you know, as kids get older, once they're verbal, and I would say like even preschool, for sure, kindergarten, as they're getting into elementary, maybe it's having like, let's have that discussion with you. Let's weigh out the pros and the cons. Let's look at the big picture, because now we're actually helping them build decision-making skills and prioritizing skills and thinking a little bit more critically and thinking about the consequences, right? So let's look like Sunday night. What's going on tomorrow? Oh, I've got a PAT. Okay, let's write that down, right? What's the pros and cons of sleeping over? And, you know, thinking about, well, what's the extra drive time? So what's that going to do for your sleep time? What's that going to do? You know, we're not going to get home until 9 o'clock tonight anyways, and we have to go home and grab, like looking at all those logistical things, but asking the open-ended questions so they can think, oh yeah, I got to go home. Well, how long do you think that's going to be? Okay, 10 minutes to grab my stuff. So I'm not going to get back to grandma's until this time, right? So they can start seeing, oh man, maybe tonight's probably not a good idea. Maybe I should wait till Friday when I'm off early. And then I've got the whole afternoon and evening and I can sleep a bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think doing that, but you know, I think you're right for those early new parents. Getting on that same co-parenting, again, it's being proactive. It's not waiting for things to blow up and you realize that
we didn't want that.
That your spouse is totally into corporal punishment and you want like positive attachment parenting, like, right? Like, and even just sleep is like, how are you going to do sleep training? Are you going to do sleep training? Are you going to do co-sleeping? What's going to happen the first time they swear at you and say you're an a-hole and want to be sucked up into a black hole or whatever, right? Like, so it's just being able to think about how are we going to manage those pieces? How are we going to respond? How are we going to teach skills? What are our ideas about screen time? Like just, you know, those things, the big ticket things. Again, we're not going to know everything, but I think it's important to know before you realize, oh my gosh, like I didn't know you wanted to bend them over and spank their bums when they were bad, right? So
well, and even just making sure that you're on the same page in that way, and that there's a component of that too where you have to be open that you're going to support each other, and that doesn't always necessarily mean agreeing, but you'll support in whatever way that needs to happen, right? Because it does, like one of the biggest things that clicked for us relatively early was it wasn't about you against me or me against you. It was always about the situation, right? And to me, that's always the defining kind of line is whatever we're facing, I don't hate you. I'm not angry at you. You know, I might be angry at you in the situation in that small piece, but in a grand scheme of things, there's no hatred, there's no animosity. It's still you and me as you and me. How do we deal with this? And I think under the pressure, you know, of newborn and work and all this other stuff, right? For us, it was bumpy for the first 2 years. It was hard, right? Like lack of sleep and stress. And are we doing it right? And we're not spending time together and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until we started talking it through and having these sort of conversations that really kind of reminded us that, okay, right? Like we decided we wanted this because we wanted us to do this. It isn't always going to be easy and fun, but it still doesn't negate the fact that it's you and me, right? And so, the fundamental basics are still the same. Is the kids are the problem. You and I are in it. No, I'm kidding. But facing everything together in a if not a unified, a supportive, and then deal with it kind of in a I guess a supportive manner offline, right? So that the kids never feel like they're being pulled. The kids never feel like they can pull at us, right, to get what they want. And we never feel like we're being chastised for what is an honest, immediate reaction, whether it's right or not, right? It can always be, you know, unless you do something horrific, right? Getting upset or getting mad or saying no or whatever, it's always fixable, right? And it just might take someone saying, hey man, that wasn't really the answer I think you should have went with. because did you know blah, 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 right?
And we'll learn, like we've both made mistakes and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have
Totally.
said that or, and
Totally.
so, yeah, we're not going to, but then you learn, right? For the next time this comes up and,
Totally.
like, I didn't know that was an issue, like
Yeah.
co-watching with screens. I didn't even know that was going to be a rule, that was going to be a thing, right? Until the situation came up where it's like, okay, this is our rule around screens.
Yeah. Which is funny because Willow just called it on herself the other day. I didn't even have to remind her.
Oh, why?
Well, because Maya wanted me to take her to practice. You had your presentation, that late presentation. And so Willow's like, I'm going to be so bored, but all I want to do is watch the hockey game. And but I'm going to be bored. And I kept saying, why are you going to be bored? Like, and it didn't click. She can't watch the game without someone with her. And she's like, I can't, Dad. I'm like, just stay and watch the game. And I totally forgot. And she's like, Dad, I can't watch TV by myself. And I'm like, that's right. That's right. You can't. And I'm like, it was a test. I was just testing you. So she came with me and we queued it up beside us. We're at the rink and we just had it on my phone so she could watch it, but I was with her so we could interact still. But it was really funny because I'm just so used to the rule that when we go, I don't even think of it because when we go to watch TV, there's always together. And so I'm like, what's wrong with you? Just TV turns on the same way. Just watch the game. Yeah. So it's funny that it's so ingrained in her.
Yeah.
But
because they've only known that since babies.
Totally. And what's even funnier is the negotiation when you and I are busy. Well, we say, yeah, you guys can go watch something if you want. No, but I don't want to watch that. I want to watch that. And then they're negotiating who's going to watch what, and is it the same amount of time, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, you guys are too.
Well, we still do that even as a family. Like we can you can each pick one little show, but cool beans. Anything left unsaid?
No, ma'am.
It is tricky. Like I think the things for me, the food was another one.
Mm-hmm.
I always felt teamed up on, even brothers being like, they're kids, they deserve candy.
Everybody rationalized it.
Like, so it's hard when you're trying to, these are our kids, like that's where it starts getting tricky when other people, maybe that's another topic.
Well, I mean, to put a fine point on it, so we remember how to pick it up. Everybody wants to rationalize their own choices as being the right ones, so they'll crap on everybody else's if they're different.
Right.
Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. But me supporting you, because I didn't have any of these ideas, because it was never anything I thought about. I wasn't raised that way. But when you start talking about it, you go, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, okay, I'm on board. But not everybody else is on board. Why can't your kids have pop? It's just one pop. I'm like, yeah, but dude, I don't want them to. Right. And yeah, they then feel that, we've talked about this in other capacities, they then feel that they're under attack because you've chosen something that's not the norm.
Yeah.
And you have to defend it. As I'm not saying it's you, I don't care what you do with your kids. They're your kids. Do it however you want. I'm saying my kids. Why are you opinionated about my kids if I'm not opinionated about your kids? Totally. It's this back and forth, right? You see it all the time with the screen.
Well, even in my family, like I remember once when the girls were itty bitty and out with family, and one of the family members had all this junk food. And I said, yeah, kiddo, you can have some, just have some lunch. And I got reamed out later because I was rude. That's all I said was, yeah, kiddo, you can totally have one, just finish your lunch. And I got reamed out because I was implying that the other family member was unhealthy and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not at all anything. I just wanted my child to eat her lunch first.
People lash out about the stuff they are most sensitive and they don't like about themselves. So, and it's true because I'm the same way. And you and I were raised very differently, right? But I respect a lot of what you brought to the table because I just never knew. It wasn't that I was so bought into the way I was raised. It was just the way I was raised. But when you start talking about different things, I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense now. I get it. Like the TV is always the one we joke around about, right? That I could crush a weekend of TLC reruns. And like, that was awesome. It was cool. I was on, but the TV was always on. But I never thought about it, right? And it wasn't until you're like, no, I hate it because the TV's always on during dinner, or it's always on when you can connect, and I don't want that. So get it off the main floor. Like, get it off the main floor. I'm like,
and out of bed.
I'm like, what kind of hippie did I marry? Yeah, she said, put it in the basement. Put it in the basement. I'm like, the television deserves respect. Like, what are you talking about? But now I can't even imagine it. Like, we have one in the spare room, but
That
it
we
never
just
gets
put it up
but it never gets used,
recently.
right? It was only there because if your parents were staying, we wanted them to be comfortable. But now I'm like, yeah, TV in the bedroom is insane,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's who would do such a thing? And I'm such a hypocrite because, dude, I had a 36-inch TV, the old CRT style, on my dresser in my old room, right? So,
I remember having a little like 8x8 black and white TV.
oh, it blew my mind when my mom won a little color RCA 8-inch from the home lottery, and she put it in her bedroom. I'm like, and granted, the TV was like 30 feet across the room and so small you can never see it, but it was mind blowing at the time.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All righty.
Hey, parenting high five because we're the best. Yeah. It's a great sign off.